Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And I wanted to discuss the PlayStation Classic. So, I didn't do a first impressions video because, I don't know. I didn't really feel like it. I also wanted to give the system the benefit of the doubt. Wait till all the games, the whole games list was released. And now it has been. So now I think we could accurately assess the system based on what we know about it. The game list is out, so now we can discuss what is to become of the PlayStation Classic. So it's a good idea. I mean, why not take the PlayStation, and the past, which a lot of people hold near and dear to their heart. Me, quite frankly, I'm not much of a PlayStation guy. I was one of the people who sold their PS2 for an Xbox. I've never been crazy about them, but they do have a lot of good games, and especially if you're talking about PS1, I have some very fond memories of playing the PlayStation at friends' houses, and it was, a great system. I've got a lot of memories of a lot of great games from it. Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon, Pa-Rappa-Da-Rappa. They had a lot of arcade ports that were pretty well done that I enjoyed, and none of these are on the system. Okay, so, I think a PlayStation, and for some reason, like, the games that I think of, well, you've got a few on here. You've got, Final Fantasy VII, which is a game that ever since elementary school I've been hearing about this game, and I played a little bit of it. I've never played it fully through because I haven't really played that many RPGs in life. I talked about, that I've been playing Secret of Mana, Earthbound. These games, I've never played them before in my life. This is the first year, 2018, where I said to myself, I'm going to make it a task to play some of these RPGs I missed as a kid. And probably now that I'm older, I might be able to appreciate them a little bit more, but who knows? Maybe I missed out on some great childhood memories. I said that. Check out my Earthbound review, for example. I said, why didn't I play this game sooner? I was like, man, I probably would have liked this as a kid. It was very charming, very, very good game. But, now I'm playing Secret of Mana, albeit a little bit slow because, Secret of Mana is a little bit of a slow-paced game, to be quite honest. And I kind of have a little bit of mixed feelings about it. But when I get around to reviewing that game, I'll be sure to tell you guys all about it. Now, let's talk a little bit about the selections on the PlayStation Classic. So you got Final Fantasy VII. So, But for all intents and purposes, this needed to be on there. I mean, this, to me, is probably the most talked about game on the entire PS1. Without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, this game is a bestseller. It makes it onto all the lists of the greatest games of all time. So well done, Sony. It didn't really take a rocket scientist to figure out that you needed to put Final Fantasy VII on here. It was already announced. Metal Gear Solid. Another great game, a classic, a game that I did play. The first time I played it was on the PC. And then when I bought a PS2, my friend actually gave me the Metal Gear Solid, gave me the actual, 2-disc set, because he wasn't really into it all that much, and he knew that I was really interested in getting into this series, and I played it, and I loved it, and I beat it finally once I got it on the PlayStation 1, and, that really deserves to be on there. I mean, that is a classic game. Love the gameplay, love the surprises in it, so, another well-chosen game. So, what else is on here? So, I'm looking at the list from GameSpot, and here's Battle Arena Toshinden. Now, I have to ask the question: what game is that? I've never even heard of that game. Now, I might have seen it around on the internet, but I don't even remember it. Cool Borders 2. No Borders 2. I'm having trouble just getting past the name. I mean, I know this game. I do. Popular game. But when you have a select list to choose from of games, and I don't even really understand this, quite frankly. Like, what is it like with the Super Nintendo Classic and the NES Classic, where they said they had to stop at a certain number? Like, why wasn't it 50? Maybe even if the game isn't an absolute classic, just the fact that it's a good game, a decent game that was on there, I'm sure many people would like to do it. You know, people go back to decent games all the time. For fuck's sakes, I played through Home Alone. That's by no means an awesome game, but sometimes these games bring about certain memories and they can sell the system based on that. Fuck, the AVGN has given birth to people playing bad games. So, you know, some people might even appreciate that. People are playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So, you know, there might be a market for putting a few games that are, you know, less than stellar on there. So why they had to shoot for toy, but we're not even done. So, like, they pick a sports game, which, you know, I think that that's kind of polarizing in a way, because there are a lot of sports fans, but, like, this is not really a regular sports game. And if I was going to have a sports game on here, I would have fucking picked Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, which is an amazing game. But, you know, I guess there's licensing issues, and, you know, not to say that some of these games are not licensed, but things can get a little bit hairy. Destruction Derby. Like, okay, it's like you already have Twisted Metal on here. So is there a reason that there needs to be another type of Demolition Derby style game? Final Fantasy VII we talked about. Grand Theft Auto. Now, I understand this game was a bestseller, but when people think back to Grand Theft Auto, nobody thinks back to the first two games, which are top-down view games that really, like, don't look that good, especially now. I mean, you gotta understand, some of the PlayStation games, they look super fucking bad. See, that's the thing. A lot of people have said this, and I agree to a certain point. Super Nintendo games and Sega Genesis games, they had a certain cartoony art style to it where they didn't try to make it look too realistic, and therefore, actually, even though that's a 16-bit system, it has aged better. But then they tried to do like 3D, and some games are pseudo 3D, kind of like this one, and they look fucking horrible. The game even kind of looked bad when it came out. Everything is so small and tiny. When Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, I was like, whoa! It looked amazing. Like, but this is the PlayStation 1. So, but the thing is, why put this game on here? There's other choices to be had, and it doesn't need to be on here. Nobody was asking for it to be on here. I was looking at people's lists that they were demanding, and nowhere on any of those lists did they have Grand Theft Auto 1 or 2. Intelligent Cube. Now, this is a puzzle game, and, you know, like I said, I've heard of it, I've seen it in action, but I don't really hear people talking about it anymore. Once again, people's lists, it wasn't on there. Jumpin' Flash. I have no idea what this game is. It just makes me think of the Rolling Stones song, Jumping Jack Flash. But people seem to want it on there, so I guess it deserves to be there. Metal Gear Solid we talked about. Mr. Driller. You know, this is a popular game. Once again, all these games are bestsellers. They wouldn't be on here otherwise. But, you know, like, I feel, once again, like there could have been another choice there. Oddworld, Abe's Oddysee. I could see this being on there. This was a popular game. Kind of controversial, I think, when it came to the controls and stuff. I don't think everybody liked it, but it was a game that was pretty popular and unique for the time. Rayman, this is a classic game. It deserves to be on there. Resident Evil Director's Cut, you bet your ass it deserves to be on there. Revelations, Persona, popular game. Does it deserve to be on there? Well, I think this was a pretty popular one, so, but I don't know. That one's a little bit more up in the air. Ridge Racer Type 4. I hear more people talking about the original Ridge Racer, but okay, it's a Ridge Racer game. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. So, Super Street Fighter, Street Fighter Alpha 3 is on this system. Street Fighter 3 is on this system. You've also got X-Men vs. Street Fighter, which is a rare game. And you've got, didn't they also have Marvel vs. Street Fighter as well? You know, they had different iterations before they got to Marvel vs. Capcom. So you've got so many choices on here that people would love to see. But you know what you do? You don't even pick any typical Street Fighter game. You go for the Puzzle Fighter game. I feel like they were trolling. Like, why would they pick this? Out of any game that you could have fucking picked, you picked this one. Really? Really? Fascinating. Interesting. Very interesting choice that you made there. I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad game, but like I said, like, this is supposed to, like, be games that define the PlayStation. I don't think this game defined it in any means. Siphon Filter, yes, that game's a classic. I never personally played it, but I heard this game getting talked about a lot, and also the sequels it had as well. Tekken 3, yes, classic fighter, deserves to be on there. The Street Fighter games are not on there, but Tekken made it, so, but, you know, I understand. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. This is a licensed game, but this game looks fucking horrible now. And, like, it's not even held in high regard as, like, Siphon Filter. Like, I understand those games have, like, a similar type of look to them. But you look back on this game, and it's like, does anybody want to play the original Rainbow Six? Especially when they've had all the different advancements that were on, like, the 360 and the PlayStation 3. You know, like the Las Vegas, like Rainbow Six, like all those fucking different types of Rainbow Sixes that improved on it and like added all these different elements and multiplayer. So, you know, you put this on here and no one really has like the itch to want to play this. I can assure you, Wild Arms, a classic game. Is that like a mech game? I don't know. I have to apologize. I apologize if I don't know some of these games. Like I said, I didn't really own a PlayStation 1. I'm not super familiar with it like I am with the N64 or the Super Nintendo. So, whatever. Wild Arms, I know it. I've heard about it. People have talked about it. But here's the thing about this system. There's no Crash Bandicoot. Yes, I understand that the game is being... That's been remastered since last year. You know, the Crash Insane trilogy. Same thing with Spyro. That's being remastered and everything, so they don't want to do that. None of the Mega Man games made it on there, so, you know, okay, that's on the collection. None of the X games made it on there as well for Mega Man, so, okay, you know. But Power Rapper the Rapper. Like, all the commercials that were out for that. And when I played that game, I remember playing that game on a demo at my friend's house and loving it so much. And I remember I could not stop singing it. Even though I didn't own the fucking game, I would sing, kick, punch, it's all in the mind. You wanna test me? I'll show you fine. The things I'll teach ya. I'll show I beat ya. Nevertheless, to learn a message for teacher. Now, the fact that I can remember that fucking shit tells me that that game is a fucking classic and it sure as hell deserves a place on that fucking list. But it's not on there. Now, I get it. Not all the games could be on there. maybe there was something that went wrong or whatever with Parappa the Rapper. Maybe they couldn't get licensing or whatever the thing might be. But I don't really think that is a hard license to acquire. I'm pretty sure that that was like a Sony exclusive property. I don't know if they own it or not. I don't know. But I'm just like saying, like, I'm looking at this list and none of these games define it. Like, where's Castlevania Symphony of the Night? And I don't care if Crash had a remaster. Put the original fucking game on there. Put one of them on there. Put Spyro. The games are going to be remastered. So people are going to buy it regardless due to the better graphics. But maybe some people might want to play in its original form. You ever think about that? I mean, man, like, I don't get how you have a PlayStation Classic without Crash Bandicoot. When that was like one of the first games that they put out to advertise the system in the US. Okay, and I'm going to say this. Nintendo might have not been the first one to release mini consoles. Let's be honest. At Games and some other companies put out like plug and play Sega Genesises and Atari, and even they had they had the C64, the Commodore 64 Mini being released. So there's been a lot of different little mini consoles, but they've all had like sound issues, poor emulation. Nintendo was the first ones to come around and say, let's do these plug and play systems right. There's no reason why they have to be pieces of shit. Let's charge a little bit more money. Let's give it some nice HDMI. Let's try to emulate it better, give it the proper sound so people can experience their favorite games the way they did the first time they played them on the original systems. So, the one thing that Nintendo does better than anybody else is maybe they might not innovate, but when they execute an idea, they do it well. Now, I was not a big fan of the Wii's motion controls, but when they did motion controls, they were best sellers, right? When Microsoft tried out the Kinect, that thing was a colossal failure. Remember, even when they tried to implement the version of the Kinect to the Xbox One, and it was going to be like mandatory, that shit didn't succeed. Poor execution. The handheld market. Remember that? Remember when Sony tried to compete? Remember when Sega tried to compete with the Game Gear? Minimal success, but Nintendo dominated them. When it comes to certain ideas, Nintendo basically owns the market on it. And I think that this PlayStation might sell well, but I don't think it's going to sell as well because a lot of people are fucking upset at these games. Because they're going to look at it, and I mean, it might sell based on the name alone because it's a Sony PlayStation Classic, and people are going to say, oh, look at this, it's cool. Now, the idea's been done so many times already now that people might be a little bit sick of it. But, people do have very fond memories of the Sony PlayStation. The thing is, though, but if they look at the box and they look at some of the names of the games on there, they're going to see a lot of games that they don't really recognize. I'm sorry, some of these games might have been highly rated back in the day, but some people don't remember half these fucking games. Like, I mean, honestly, what was the name of that fucking game again? Give me 1 second here. The first one that I named on the list. It was called Battle Arena Toshinden. Like honestly, like who goes like, oh yeah, I remember that. No, you don't. You don't remember that game. Like, Jesus. Like, who the fuck came up with the list of games on here? I don't know. Anyway, the point is that Nintendo might have not originated the idea for classic systems, but they executed it so much better. I mean, there's no excuse with this game list. You know, and we're all just assuming that that's the reason why Crash and Spiral not on there. That probably is the reason, because they don't want to take away from any potential sales of those games. But that's really ridiculous, because as many of those copies of Insane Trilogy and the Spiral Trilogy that they might sell through those remasters for the current gen systems, they are going to lose out on sales when people don't see those console-defining games included on this. This, you also want to sell this product too, right? So you can't compromise one thing for another thing. It doesn't work that way. I mean, it would have been better just do both. You know, that's what a lot of companies do a lot of times. They end up fucking themselves over because they're like, oh, well, this might lead to this, but no, you're just speculating. Speculating. You're better off just taking a chance and doing it sometimes, because, first of all, like I said, you sit back and you're like, that would be like if they released the Super Nintendo Classic and recently they might have done a Super Mario World remaster, and they didn't put it on there. You'd look at the system and say, how the hell do you not have the launch title on the Super? That's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. So, I don't know, guys. I'm probably going to pass on this. I was thinking about getting it, but I'm like, this is a list of games that I don't really... And where's Croc? Where's Tomb Raider? I'm saying, like, there's none of the Street Fighter games. And this console was known for a lot of the fighting games that it had on it. Nowhere to be found. Like I said, there's the Chrono Cross. Where's that? Nope, not on there. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. If you enjoyed what I had to say here, hit a thumbs up. Maybe if you don't even maybe you disagree with me, you can hit the thumbs down. But maybe I entertained you anyway. So you can also click the bell down here so you get notifications when I post all my new videos. Check out some of the other videos I have posted here. And until next time, guys.